The Dallas Cowboys have had some changes among their coaching staff, but my question to you, Mike Fisher, is from now to a year ago, do you feel like the coaching staff is better?
There are some guys that are leaving the coaching staff that are tremendously proven commodities in the NFL. And so, for instance, Joe Philbin, the offensive line coach, has been a head coach in the NFL. That's a substantial move away there. He's replaced somewhere on the staff. If you look at the entirety of Mike McCarthy's staff, he's replaced by guys who have experience too. Kellen Moore gone, but Brian Schottenheimer, he's been coaching the NFL, including as an offensive coordinator for 20 years.
Yeah.
The most recent thing they've done, with a couple names that are very off the radar, but they've added a couple guys that are like an assistant offensive line coach.
Yeah.
An assistant offensive line coach. That's down the pike a little bit, down the pecking order. An assistant on offense who will come, and they'll be installation guys. And so this is really critical to the Mike McCarthy staff, and this is no offense to Kellen Moore. This has nothing to do with Kellen Moore being bad or though everybody involved butting heads. Not really. It's about a philosophy to move forward, and so Mike McCarthy, top to bottom, bringing in staffers that do his thing. But the only measure of good coaching, and I get into this debate a lot, you can tell me if you agree with this.
Okay.
There's only one measure of good coaching.
Yeah.
Did you win the game?
Interesting. Yeah.
Because otherwise, how do we know what a good coach is? We do this all the time on social media, and all our media friends do this, and it's just part and parcel with the job, I guess, but I'm not completely comfortable with it. If it's a coach that I know or you know, boy, he's an up and coming young. But is he?
Because he asked how your weekend was.
Right. I promise you, and it's impossible to avoid this. We can be independent journalists, and we can try to be right down the middle, and we do try to be that. But the fact is, if I've got coaches' phone numbers because we've developed a relationship, chances are I'm going to like him. What happened to Joe Philbin here, some people in the media decided they didn't like him, but they'd never met him. They just decided. And the next thing you know, the same media people who, once have lunch with good old Coach Smith, boy, they love Coach Smith. That Coach Smith can really coach. The best coaching staff in the NFL this year, by far, is Andy Reid's coaching staff with the Chiefs. Because now I'm hesitant to say, here's a great example of it. I don't know Coach Nick in Philadelphia. You don't either.
No.
He seems like kind of a jackass. And maybe he's a lovable jackass. He certainly fits the Eagles fan base persona. But the perception outside of Philadelphia is, he's probably not very good. In fact, Giants players said it. I just kind of riding the coattails of the players. But if we went to lunch with Nick, I bet you we'd like him just fine. I think we'd find him to be very bright. And I think then we'd be on Twitter saying, I'll tell you who's a sharp one, is that Coach Nick, because he's our friend.
Right. Okay, so not to put you on the spot, but better or worse, Cowboys coaching staff?
Better.
Because they're McCarthy's
Because it's
people.
McCarthy's guy. If Kellen had grown up in McCarthy's system, then we could have a different answer. And if Kellen had grown up in McCarthy's system, he would still be here.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Let's talk some free agency, and specifically Leighton Vander Esch, who had a very strong season for Dallas. Do you think he's going to be a priority for the Cowboys?
I can rattle off the names of the Cowboy priorities.
Okay.
And I think as Cowboy fans know, it is the Cowboys' penchant, their habit, and it's a good habit, that they sign their own. It's the devil you know. Rather than take on a good linebacker who played in another system, under another coach, and I only kind of know him, why not just sign my own good linebacker? And Leighton Vander Esch has proven once again he's a good linebacker.
Being able to become over some very bad injuries.
Right, and that now is an issue that is behind him, it seems. The next time Leighton Vander Esch gets hurt, it'll be a fluke, not a trend, and good for him. What he did, of course, last year was sit on an almost deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I say of course, but unless you watch this program or follow us at cowboyssi.com or on the Fish Report, you don't know this.
I like the word program.
It's a college term, but I like it too.
Got it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers were on the verge of offering him $8 million a year. And then, I can't remember who they went with. They decided at the last minute, we're going to go with another guy. And the next thing you know, Leighton Vander Esch is sitting there losing that amount of money
Right.
and having to end up coming back to Dallas for 1/4 of that total for 1 year, a prove-it deal for Leighton Vander Esch. But instead of being insulted, he just came back to Dallas and
Worked.
kicked butt.
Yeah.
So
We saw it in training camp.
there's no question.
Yeah.
And also in terms of leadership and being the defensive quarterback, all those things, critically important. Now, are they $8 million worth of important in a salary cap era? That's to be debated. But Tony Pollard, Leighton Vander Esch, Donovan Wilson, Connor McGovern, Terrence Steele, although he's restricted, so you have contractual control there.
Yeah.
And then a real debate about Dalton Schultz.
Got it.
You really want to pay Dalton Schultz $14 million a year when you have two kids making $1 million each who theoretically can do some of the same things. So I don't want to not put Dalton Schultz on the list of priorities. So I'm putting him over on the side with an asterisk. How about that?
Let's talk about the guy at the top of the list for free agency priorities, Tony Pollard. How do you foresee this going down?
The Cowboys did their own study in the DeMarco Murray year. When they were talking to him about a new contract, he was in the process of winning an NFL rushing title, which somehow unfortunately gets forgotten. It's not really fair to him or the offensive line that we're forgetting. DeMarco Murray was a monster here.
Right.
But the Cowboys did a study, an in-house study, and it was unprecedented because conventional wisdom for years is the running back falls off the cliff at age 30.
Yeah.
And I think we all just picked a nice round number and said, oh, 30. The Cowboys study was heavy lifting stars fall off the cliff at 28. Well, guess what DeMarco Murray was about to turn. So they made him an offer, but they did not make him an offer as if he was a superstar priority. He didn't have any reason to be insulted. He moved to the Eagles and got the superstar contract, and guess what happened?
Yeah.
He fell off a cliff.
Interesting.
And played there briefly, and then I think played for Tennessee briefly and fell off the cliff further. So the Cowboys made the right hard call on him. Now along comes Tony Pollard. He's not a heavy lifter. He's not 28. But yet, do you need a $10 million running back?
Yeah.
We've seen the history of what Mike McCarthy and the Packers did. They never had a $10 million running back.
Yeah.
They never bothered. They had a premium talent in Aaron Jones at the end of the McCarthy era there, but otherwise they were having James Starks and 6-round picks and undrafted Eddie Lacy, a 2nd-round pick, was their leading rusher for 3 years. But otherwise, it was a collection of just guys.
Right.
Combine that with what we just saw with the Chiefs, where 7th-round rookie Eddie Pacheco. Eddie Pacheco is a dominant player in the Chiefs offense. And for me, in a salary cap era, I don't think the Cowboys feel this way, but I do.
Yeah.
I would not franchise tag Tony Pollard. I would move off of Tony Pollard, save myself that much money. I would move off of Ezekiel Elliott. And that both those are tough.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard's an electric player.
And they're big parts in the locker room.
And Ezekiel Elliott is really the hub of the wheel in the locker room. But you're going to say goodbye to Zeke either this year or next year. So maybe rip off the Band-Aid and move to $1 million running back instead of a couple of $10 and $15 million running backs.
Quarterback Dak Prescott winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year award for all of his hard work that he does here in the DFW area as well as all around the country. What does a guy like Prescott bring to this Cowboys organization, specifically the locker room, when his foundation is doing so much great work?
My great debate with my buddy Sean Sharif on 105.3 The Fan when the Cowboys for 2 years were working on that contract is I'm going to pay him this much to be a quarterback. I'm going to pay him this much to be the person he is. Because especially at the quarterback position in the NFL, you are kind of the CEO of the football team, or at least
set the tone for sure.
Correct. You're on the board of directors, football team. Okay, there's the owner, the coach. You are one of the most important business people, leadership people, team president kind of guy. In Dallas, maybe as much or more than anywhere, but quarterback across the board, that's the way it works. So a quality of person matters. First guy in the building matters. Last guy out of the building matters. His foundation, which is doing incredibly wonderful things, and now will do even more thanks to the NFL Man of the Year award, named, of course, in honor of Walter Payton.